Today, we are diving into a really fascinating argument from the 17th century by a theologian named John Flavel. He asked a question that, honestly, still hits home today. What if all the things that happen in our lives aren't random at all?
So, this is it. This is the central mystery Flavel was trying to solve. I mean, he looked at all the chaos, all the ups and downs of life, and he saw something more than just a string of accidents. He saw a pattern. And he really believed he'd found solid evidence for a guiding hand, a concept he called special providence.
So to really get what Flavel is arguing, we've got to start with his big idea. It's the foundation for his entire case. What in the world did he mean by special providence?
Okay, so Flavel makes this really important distinction. He says there's a general providence, this kind of background operating system for the universe that governs everything from the planets spinning to the birds flying. But then, he says there's this other layer, a special providence. And this one is intensely personal, super detailed, and reserved specifically for believers.
You see, this was a huge break from the classical view at the time. You had the Epicureans, who basically imagined a divine being that was totally hands-off. It was, well, too busy being tranquil and perfect to get its hands dirty with our messy human lives. Flavel comes along and argues the complete opposite. He describes a divine power that is deeply, personally, and constantly involved, crafting every single event as part of a much bigger plan.
So you're probably wondering, where's the proof? Where did Flavel find his evidence? Well, his first pile of evidence is honestly the most dramatic. He points to these moments where the fundamental laws of nature just seem to pause, like they're put on hold for a very specific reason.
Flavel throws out these incredible questions to really challenge that idea of a cold, mechanical universe. I mean, think about it. Natural things are supposed to act in predictable ways, right? Fire burns stuff that can burn. Hungry lions, they eat. So what does it mean when they just don't? What's going on there?
For Flavel, these weren't just random glitches in the system. No way. He argued they lined up perfectly with scriptural promises, like this one from Isaiah. He saw these moments as promises being fulfilled right before people's eyes, proving that a higher power was stepping in to protect its people.
And he lays out this powerful list of examples. You've got the Red Sea parting, Daniel in the lion's den, just one after another. For Flavel, these aren't just stories, they're like data points in history showing a consistent pattern. The really crucial thing is that in these moments, nature itself seems to be bending to a completely different will.
Okay, let's move on to the next piece of evidence, which is just as wild when you think about it. Flavel tells us to look at those times when the most evil, malicious plans of enemies somehow end up creating the exact opposite of what they wanted to happen.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? An enemy is plotting your total downfall. They've got all their ducks in a row to destroy you, and yet every single thing they do just ends up lifting you higher. How does that even work? Flavel says, look, that cannot be an accident.
Joseph's story is Flavel's absolute prime example. I mean, every step is a total disaster. He's sold by his own family, then thrown in prison on bogus charges. By all logic, his life is over. But somehow, each step that should have led to his ruin was actually a necessary rung on the ladder that led to him becoming this incredibly powerful leader and saving his entire family.
And then there's the story of Haman. This one is just a perfect illustration of this incredible reversal. The guy literally builds the instrument of his enemy's destruction, a 75-foot gallows, only for the tables to turn so completely that he ends up being hanged on that very same structure. For Flavel, this isn't just poetic justice or irony. It's a signature of divine design.
All right, now for what Flavel sees as one of the absolute clearest signs of a guiding hand. And it's something we still talk about today, that uncanny split-second timing. He argues that plain old coincidence just can't explain the sheer number of critical things that happen at the exact perfect moment.
Okay, let's go back to that story about Haman's plot. The scene is set. Everything is in place. The king's decree is signed, the gallows are ready, and the fate of an entire people is literally hanging by a thread. Time has completely run out.
And then, this happens. Something that seems so random, so small. The most powerful man in the empire can't sleep. He has a little bout of insomnia. So, to pass the time, he asks for some boring old court records to be read to him.
And of all the records they could have picked, of all the stories from all the years, the reader just so happens to land on the one entry detailing how Mordecai, the very man Haman is about to kill,
had previously uncovered an assassination plot and saved the king's life.
And here is the unbelievable punchline. The king is sitting there thinking, wow, I need to honor this Mordecai guy, at the very second that Haman walks into the court planning to ask for permission to hang him. The timing is so ridiculously perfect, it single-handedly unravels the entire evil plot.
And Flavel is quick to show this isn't just a one-off thing. He points to Abraham's hand being stopped at the last possible second, Hagar finding water just as all hope was lost, or an enemy invasion just happening to pop up, forcing Saul to give up chasing David right when he had him cornered. Over and over, help arrives not just on time, but literally in the nick of time.
And finally, let's look at the last category of evidence Flavel brings to the table. This one creates a direct link between human action and what he sees as divine intervention. He's talking about events that happen immediately after and, in perfect alignment with, prayer.
The pattern he points out here is incredibly direct. Someone prays for a specific thing, and then, bam, an event immediately follows that corresponds to that prayer. Israel prays at the Red Sea, the sea parts. David prays against an enemy, the enemy's plans fall apart. The church prays for Peter, an angel frees him from prison. Flavel argues that this correlation is just too strong to be a coincidence. It's evidence of a conversation being answered.
So when you put it all together, you've got nature bending its own rules, you've got enemy plots that completely backfire, you've got this impossibly perfect timing, and you've got direct answers to prayer. Flavel's conclusion is that this just isn't chaos. It's not a string of lucky breaks. To him, it is a clear, undeniable pattern that points to the work of what he called a wise, invisible agent.
And suddenly, Flavel's 17th century argument becomes way more than just a dusty theological debate. It's really a challenge to how we see our own stories. He found a hidden logic, a purpose woven through all the crazy events of his world. And it leaves us with a really provocative question. Whether we agree with his conclusions or not, what patterns, what hidden logic might we be missing in the story of our own lives?